Welcome to the Prophecy Club. I had a meeting with my team this morning, and I repeated to them what I had said to two other very close friends, and I'm about to repeat that today. And I'm going to call this Impromptu, Financial Crash. And I'm not using any PowerPoint today. I don't have any notes. I didn't have any notes when I talked to them. I just talked. I just told them what's on my heart, what I think is coming. Now, why? So here's the story. First of all, I had a longtime friend and also one of my prophetic oil board members call yesterday. And then last night, I had, well, I'll just tell you who. There's no reason not to tell you who this is. It was Pastor Massey. He's been one of the ministers that has ministered with us on, I think, about all of our crusades the last few years. He's also made 3 DVDs with the Prophecy Club. He has a global miracles ministry, led some 300,000 Muslims to the Lord in Pakistan. I think about that. Started over 300 churches. He called last night and he said, "Can you tell me what's going on?" And then this morning, I was talking to my staff, and Lord, give me the right words to say. Help me say the wrong words. Don't let me say the right. Help me say the right words. Don't let me say the wrong words in Jesus' name. And I said much of the same thing to my staff this morning. And then I thought, you know what? Our people would probably want to know what I just said to them, what I just said to my staff. So I'm about to tell you what I just told 3 very, very close people to me. And I have to choose my words carefully because I don't want to step across the line, say some things, reveal some things that I know, that I also know I'm not supposed to talk about. Okay, so first of all, here's the way I started this morning. And of course, my staff doesn't listen to Prophecy Club every day, but they needed to know what I'm about to say to you. I said, so assuming October the 5th of 2022 was the start of the tribulation. First of all, we have Terry Bennett, that is very credible, said that he had the angel Gabriel appear to him and blow a shofar and read from an official document saying the tribulation has now started on October the 5th of 2022. Then we have Byron Searle of You Be Ready. He also said it started the same day. And then there was another female person that I don't mention her name anymore because she doesn't want me to. So in that she says she doesn't want me to say anything she, quote, hears from the Lord, unquote, that tells me it's probably not from the Lord. But she also said on or about the same day that the tribulation had started. But she also left herself a back door. She said, but it might not necessarily be 7 years. Yeah, well. But the point is, that's 3 credible people that says the tribulation started October the 5th of 2022. And I said, now, let me just say, I do not know that the tribulation has started. I certainly do not know that it started October the 5th of 2022. But I'm saying this because, I'm saying this to my staff, I said, we need to make plans assuming it is. Now, if it doesn't, then fine. But nevertheless, we'll still be in a good position. And I said, so assuming it started October the 5th of 2022, and I do not know that it has, and we might not know until the Antichrist appears and sits on the throne, the Ark of the Covenant. And to this point, I have not seen the face of the Antichrist. At least he has not identified himself, at least to my liking, that he's the Antichrist. And we have not heard that the Ark of the Covenant has been revealed other than what Ron Wyatt told us. In other words, it's not officially by Israel saying we found it or we have it, okay? But assuming for just a minute that let's try to paint a picture, and that's what I'm trying to do. Assuming that October the 5th of 2022 did start the tribulation, and I'll say again, I do not know that it has. And this is what I said to my closest friends, my staff. I do not know that it has. But if it has, That would mean in the middle of the tribulation, which is March the 18th of 2026, we would see the Antichrist sit on the Ark of the Covenant, proclaim himself God, stop animal sacrifice. That's another thing. They haven't even started animal sacrifice, but they are saying they're going to before the end of the year, and they said that in 2024. Now, did they miss, or is it just not happen when they wanted it to happen? In other words, we're close, and that's another point I want to make. We're close. Are we right on? Might not be. Okay, so let's go back to my point. Assuming it was, then what does that mean? All right. So we're talking about financial things today. You remember Brandon Biggs? And my staff did not know the name. And I said, so he was the guy that saw that Trump was shot in the right ear, saw blood coming from his ear 3 months before it happened. At the time, he had 50,000 subscribers, and now he's probably up over 500,000 subscribers. So a lot of people started listening to him. One of the things he said was, the Lord showed me that there's going to be a financial crash, and it's one event that starts that financial crash. Now, in my opinion, and that's what you've asked for today, my opinion that it's either Fort Knox or the Suitcase nukes, and I'll explain to you why. Okay, so let's take Fort Knox. So Trump is now saying that he's going to go into Fort Knox and inspect to see that the gold is there. I've thought about it. There's actually 5 possibilities that could happen. Possibility number 1 is he goes there, all the gold is genuine, all the gold that's supposed to be there is there, he walks out smiling, and we're in good shape. 2, he walks in and the gold appears to be there, but they find out that actually the United States doesn't own all of it, or doesn't own most of it, or something like that. In other words, a bad report. 3, the gold that's there is not all of it. In other words, another bad report. Or he goes in there with a little electronic device that they have now that they can put against the gold brick, and it looks up to 4 centimeters, which is about half an inch, down into the gold bar, and can tell if it is gold or if it is tungsten, because tungsten has about the same weight and consistency as gold. The difference is it's $45 a kilo as opposed to $68,000 a kilo. So he goes in, it appears that all the gold's there, but he tests it and oops, it's not all gold. Or option number 5 is it's all empty. Now that means out of the 5 options, 1 is good news, everything continues as it should. But there's 4 options that is bad. So that means we got 4 out of 5 that probably is a bad option. So let's take the 4 options. Let's take any one of them. If it's not right, then that could be the event that causes the stock market to crash. Now, when we say stock market crash, it's not just talking about just the stock market. In 1929, yeah, the stock market crashed, but it wasn't just the stock market. It was the crash of banks every place, and I'm not going to go into all of that. That's not my point. I think what he's saying is that the whole financial system that we've been operating on since 1913, called the Federal Reserve, is all going to crash. Well, in BenjaminFulford.net's website this past week, it had a sentence in there that says that he was told that the whole financial system has to crash in order to bring in the new financial system. Okay, well, what's that? Well, you've heard the old saying, if it's not broken, don't fix it. So if you want a new financial system, you got to break the old one in order to bring in the new one, right? Okay. Because a lot of people say, well, no, I mean, it's working just fine. Let's just stay with that. No, you got to break the old one to bring in the new one. Okay, so now what's up with the new one? Now, I have to give you a disclaimer. I have signed a non-disclosure agreement that specifically tells me that I cannot say some things, and I'm not going to say those things. I'm not going to tell you what I can't tell you. But I can quote that some of the things I'm about to say, if someone else says them, I can say them. So I'm telling you some of the things I'm about to say comes from finalwakeupcall.info, which I do not necessarily recommend everything on that website. I haven't read everything on the website, but I've read some things that, no, that's not right. Okay, so remember I had a dream back in 2009. I had asked the Lord, so what is the next 9/11? And that night I was shown that there was going to be a series of sophisticated devices, I believe suitcase nukes, going off all across America, and I won't go into all the details there. But my point is, one of them would hit a regional bank, knock out their records and all of their backups, and would put billions of dollars into the hands of the international bankers, and would cause America to go into a financial tailspin, and regardless of who actually planted it or who they blamed it on, the people behind it would be international bankers. Now, with that in mind, okay, so what is the stock market crash? Well, it could be Fort Knox. So in the next few days to few weeks, Trump walks into Fort Knox. They don't want to let him in, but he's the president. He might have to show up with a tank and maybe with a regiment of Marines, but he says, let me in. And they better let him in. So he walks in, cameras rolling live on the internet, and 4 out of the 5 are bad report. There's a bad report. Now, a program I made a couple of days ago showed all of the things that would happen, but the primary thing would be it would crash the stock market and also bring in a financial crash. Now, again, benjamin444.net says there has to be a crash of the old system in order to bring in the new system. All right, so who's bringing in the new system? Now, let me just say, I'm not saying anything bad about Elon Musk. I hope the things that I have heard are not accurate. And yes, I can't prove a word of what I'm about to say here. But again, I'm talking to my staff and my very, very close friends, giving them the best picture of what I think is coming. And sad to say, probably here in the next few months. I'm not trying to set a date. Okay, so for you remember I played a clip of a lady that said, I do not know that this is true, that she said that she was his childhood babysitter, and that if I remember the story correctly, and it might not be correct, so I'll give myself a disclaimer way out there, but she walked into a room and saw him floating in the room, and there was some kind of a portal there, and that basically she was saying he's of the devil. And I do not know that that's true. And that she then asked either her mother or his mother if he was the Antichrist. And they said no, but he'll bring in the mark of the beast. Now, for a person to bring in the mark of the beast, let's talk about that. Now, I covered this in another program recently. For that to happen, there's some things he'd have to have. He'd have to have a financial distribution network in order to move money around the globe. And in the case of Elon Musk, he has PayPal. Second thing is he'd also have to have a way to communicate globally so that no man might buy or sell, save he had the mark of the name of the beast or the number of his name, and that would be Starlink satellites. Eventually, they're going to have 42,000 up. I do not know how many of them are in place, but I do know it is already working. Now, whether it's working enough to go global, now I don't know. Next thing is he'd also have to have a computer program that could be like an everything program. And Elon Musk says he's going to make X the everything program. He would also have to have connections to the banking system. Well, 2 days ago, it was reported on HalTurnerRadioShow.com that they have if I remember right, they have the God key. And that key allows them to enter all computer systems, financial systems of the federal government, and no one can keep them out of it. Now, you put all that together, and that kind of makes a big finger pointing at Musk as possibly being the guy that could bring in the mark of the beast. Going back to October 5th, 2022. So if the Antichrist is going to sit on the Ark of the Covenant, we would assume that shortly before thereof or shortly after, you would see the mark of the beast come out. So if that's the middle of the tribulation, that would be March the 18th of 2026. Are we getting close to that? Could that fit? Yes, that could fit. Okay, now also, what about the financial thing? Well, you remember that Coverstone had a dream, and he was shown in the dream that pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, all coins are going away, and then they're also going to start removing $1, $5 bills, meaning coins and cash are going to start going away just before the crash. What happened last week? Trump just turned off the penny. The U.S. Mint is now no longer making pennies. He says it costs 4 cents to make 1 penny. Why do we need pennies? Turned it off. That's kind of telling us that we're getting really, really close to this. Okay, so now back to my issue. How close are we to a financial crash? Well, BRICS, according to Shane Warren, would be a major thing that would cause the crash. He was shown that when they start selling oil in another currency other than the dollar, that would start causing the value of the dollar to fall. That happened June 9th, 2024. And the next day, reports say, China began selling oil in the yuan. But then BRICS popped up and said, we're going to have this 26-nation confederacy, we're going to go around the dollar. But Trump just recently said, anybody who tries to go around the dollar will get 100% tariffs immediately. And ever since then, nobody has said anything about BRICS. Then today, Trump, or Vladimir Putin just said that he was, how did he say it? It was the talks with the U.S. had been given hope, had given him hope. He said he hadn't talked to anybody in the United States in 3.5 years, thanks to the Biden administration. And we've been praying a lot. Our Fast Gap team has been fasting and praying that the whole Russia, Ukraine, U.S., and European nation confederacy, that whole group of people trying to stop the Ukraine-Russia war would not make the bear angry, but it would be peaceful and come to a peaceful conclusion. And right now, it looks like that can happen. Not over yet. And of course, tomorrow, Zelensky is supposed to be at the White House to sign an agreement that basically starts paying America back, and we'll be getting without. It could be real good. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't want to get into those details. So it could be that we're about to, how do I say, shake hands and make friends with the Russians again, and that would be a very, very good thing. That could be pushing the destruction of America off. Okay, so back to my issue, financial. Why do we think that financial thing, when do we think it's going to happen? Well, Pastor Massey, again, had God spoke to him in a dream and said that a crash is coming. And he said, well, from the time that the new system, and that's what I'll call it, from the time the new system comes in, you need to have your money out of the new system within 6 months. And he kept asking the Lord, begging the Lord, no, please, can't you give it at least a year? And finally, the Lord said no. And he asked him 3 times. The Lord said no, and don't ask again. You're not going to have more than 6 months. When the new system comes in, you need to get your money out of the system within 6 months, put it into gold, silver, and land. And of course, I will also add into Israel oil with us. So what does that mean? The way I see it right now is that America is right on the precipice. If something happens with this Fort Knox investigation, that could crash the dollar. But that's not a suitcase nuke. So what I see is 2 issues coming up. The immediate problem that could crash it, not saying it's the only problem, but it could be let me start over here and go this direction for you guys. It could be the Fort Knox issue. That could crash it immediately. So maybe he walks in there, get any kind of a bad report, and the dollar starts going down Coverstone, and Maurice Sklar, and it's got, 12 different prophecies, says it goes 30%, 30%, 0, okay? So the Fort Knox issue could do it, and so I can see that bringing in the crash, shortly after the crash, and I want to say 2 or 3 months, but it might be more like 6 or 9 months, maybe even a year of difficulty of crash until finally Trump comes out and says, okay, hang on. We're coming out with a whole new financial system. That explains the new flag, the new name called the Republic of the United States, doing away with the all capital United States of America. And he comes out with a whole new financial system, which I believe will be good to start off with. Remember, we had a 9-year-old, I believe it was, Jason. Well, one of our supporters had a son, 9 years old, and he saw that there's going to come out with a new device. It's not a cell phone, but it's about the size of a cell phone, looks like a cell phone, and it is always, it's not to play games on, it's not to, I'm stumbling because there's some things that keep coming to mind that I should not say yet, okay? So I'm putting those things out. 7 billion of these phones reportedly are already made, and you don't play games on it, you don't make phone calls on it. It is only for buying and selling. They say, the report is, and this was a couple of years ago, that 7 billion of them have already been made. And you don't put any kind of cover on it because it is always taking your fingerprints, your voice print, and your facial recognition print all the time. And that's what you use to buy and sell. Now, I can't prove that, but what I'm trying to do is paint a picture from my heart, what I see coming. We could see, and here's my point, we could see a financial crash any day now. We don't know when Trump is going to go to Fort Knox. But when that happens, within hours, that dollar could go, boom, down 30%. A few more days, a few more months, down 30%. Worthless as leaves blowing in a wind. That could happen in the next few weeks, maybe the next few months. And then when that happens, probably the crash will be at least 2 months. I'm just guessing. I don't know. Again, that's what I said to my staff. It's what I told my very, very best friends. Probably 2 to 6 months on the crash. And then we start coming out with a new system. And that new system is going to come to it's going to bring America through a lot of financial difficulty. Then once the new system is up, then Pastor Massey's prophecy kicks in. You got 6 months to get your money out of the system. That's my best guess. And as I told all of them, I said, I want you to remember, it's just a guess. I'm just trying, it might not be right. I do not know that October 5th, 2022, just say 2020, 2022, October 5th. I'm going to make that sure. October 5th, 2022. I do not know that that's the start of the tribulation. But if it is, then March 18th of 26 is the middle of the tribulation, and that will put Jesus returning October 29 of 2029. Now, I did not say Jesus is going to return October 29 of 29. I did not say that. I do not know. I'm simply trying to, from everything I know, everything I feel, everything I hear, everything, I think we're very close to it. Now, let me bring in something else. Massive arrests. I've got a whole 1 hour video up on all of our platforms where I read through the 89 prophecies that there's going to be suitcase nukes. 89, okay, you don't get a mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let a thing be established. So when we got 89 of them, that's God screaming at us, if we can just listen, screaming at us that this is going to come. I want to believe that we're probably talking about a few weeks to a few months. That's my best guess for the crash. And then the crash lasts, I'd like to think a few weeks, but it's probably more like a few months. It might even be 6 months. Then coming out of the crash, and then another 6 months is when the suitcase nuke hits. It might hit tomorrow. I don't know. I'm doing my best to try to bring you my best, okay? So, and God has not told me any dates. Believe me, I've asked. I don't know for sure. I'd like to be able to tell you exactly. That's my heart. I want to be able to bring you the truth the best I can. That's as best as I can. And let me talk about something else. It is embarrassing for me to continually say to you, we're in a financial jam. Because it makes me feel like I'm not doing my job. It makes me feel like, well, that'll support you. What are you doing still on here? Maybe you need to go find something else to do. But I know God has called me to do this. And so if you get tired of me saying I need some help, you ain't heard nothing yet. I'm really, really tired of it. It's embarrassing. It's humiliating to have to say, yeah, well, we're in a jam. But we've been in a jam ever since about a month before the election. Because now, I voted for Trump. Trump's in. And it went down even more after inauguration. Trump's in. We don't have to worry about all this stuff. All this stuff's going away. I don't think so. I honestly think, here, since I'm telling you what I think, I'll tell you a couple more things. The fall of America will start with an internal revolution in America, period. Then the next point I believe the angel was saying is, some of the people, in other words, what starts that internal revolution is, some of the people in America will start fighting against the government. Now, let me rephrase it the way I would say it. The fall of America will start with an internal revolution where they overthrow Donald Trump. Now, I didn't say that, but that's the way I see it right now. Some of the Democrats and the evil people in America will start fighting against the government. They will also bring in the illegal immigrants, the people out of insane asylums, the drug dealers, the criminals that they, during the administration of Biden, brought in. And they're going to give them guns and bombs, and there's going to be trouble in America like we've never seen. Some of the Democrats and the evil people will start fighting against the Trump administration. That's the way I see it right now. Best guess. That's a guess. That's not a thus saith the Lord. Start fighting against the Trump administration. The Trump administration will be busy with internal problems, trying to round up all of the problem people. Also, there's about to be massive arrests. All of these people, this money stolen from our government, fraud and all this. Trump is not going to let that go. Pam Bondi is not going to let that. Kash Patel is not going to let that go. So we're about to see those massive arrests, just like we've been saying here at the Prophecy Club. We are probably about to see things get really, really tough. Then the internal revolution starts, but that's not the end of it. But then in the internal revolution, they kick out Trump, my guess, and they remove all of his people. But then as Trump is rounding up and arresting the bad people, then the bad people take over and they start arresting all of the Christians and start lopping off their heads. Does that kind of fit with the middle of the tribulation, the Antichrist rising up here in the next year or so? See, what I'm saying is all of this sounds very, very plausible. Now, to close with this, if you can help us with a financial gift, we'd really appreciate it. I look forward to the day I never have to ask for help again. God bless you.